Hey everybody, welcome to Sana Q&A Mondays. I'm Meredith Miller, your integration coach, and today I'm going to try a new format just to experiment. I'd like to hear your feedback. I'm going to do a question per upload. That way it's separated for each question instead of having a really long session, which maybe is deterring for some people to pay attention to because it's so long. If I do the questions in each separate upload, maybe it'll be easier for some people just to quickly look and find the themes that they're most looking for. I do hear from a lot of people who say too, that even though they're not asking questions and, they listen and they get a lot of value from questions other people ask because there are such similar patterns that take place in these kinds of abusive relationships. So I'm going to start with this one that I got last week, and I want to apologize to this person that I didn't get a chance to read it last week. I didn't see it in time. It says, I am trying to go no contact or gray rock because we have a little 1-year-old boy. I filed a protection from abuse order, which then turned into a no contact agreement. In that court-ordered agreement, the times for him to see the baby were agreed upon by both of us. I try to set boundaries because I don't want to see him, and he demands that I meet him to exchange the baby, even though it's written that he should do it at daycare without needing contact. Today, he threatened me by saying he's taking me to court and getting joint custody and having my son from Sunday to Sunday. I finally said it's probably better to go to court, that way there's no switching anything. That means no control for him, so now he threatened me with filing for full custody. Not because I'm a bad mom, I am a great mother and my kids are my life, but because I'm making it hard for him and setting boundaries. My question is, how can I deal with this? Because from everything I've read, narcs love going to court, and I've rarely seen a victim say they've won. My ex is a covert narc, and he's the most convincing person I've ever met. People eventually see him, but a judge that sees him the first time can believe him over me. Also, he has an attorney best friend. Granted, he's not a family lawyer, but knows so many other attorneys. I was stuck with a court-appointed paralegal because he left me with nothing. She did a horrible job, and I'm afraid it will happen again. I'm just so tired of dealing with him. He doesn't even care about the baby. So first of all, Mama, I'm sending you a big hug because that sounds like a lot of stress, and you've got this little 1-year-old boy. Now, let's start from the beginning. You said you filed a protection from abuse. I guess that means you're in the UK. I think that's the UK kind of order. That is pretty much what we call here as like a restraining order. And that turned into a no contact agreement. So what I don't understand is why there is any contact between you and this person at all, because you have a court order that states that you don't have to have contact with him, which means you should absolutely uphold that. You should not compromise your well-being, your safety, your sanity, your relationship with your child, anything. You should not be compromising that because you have a court order that says no contact agreement, which means he has no right to do that. He's bullying you. So you need to stand up, girl. You need to stop taking that shit. You need to stop backing down when he bullies you. I know it's scary because you have a baby. That's like a whole other level of scary, right? But this guy has a court order. That means if he breaks that order, he's in trouble, not you. Okay, so that's the first thing. It says the agreement was that you were supposed to exchange the baby at the daycare. You absolutely need to stick with that. No more. Okay, it's okay that you went back, you compromised your boundaries in the past and that got confusing, which is why now he's trying to, take more and more control over things. You got to set that boundary real clear again. It only happens at the daycare. If he doesn't do that, he's legally responsible. There's to be no contact between you. So make that really clear that the only place that baby will be exchanged is at the daycare, that he is to have no more contact with you. Yes, he's getting more upset because you're trying to set boundaries. The thing is, there is no try, there's only do, right? There is no try, there's only do. Don't try to set boundaries, because if you try to set boundaries, you are setting yourself up for failure. Okay, you need to set the boundary and you need to enforce it. And that is no easy thing to do, especially at the beginning. And especially when you've been used to years with this person, or maybe even a lifetime having been trained with an abusive or alcoholic or other addict parent, you know, who did not allow you to have boundaries, did not allow you. So now as an adult, you got to teach yourself that skill. First of all, you have to give yourself permission to set that boundary. Yes, you have permission to set that boundary. You absolutely do. No matter what he tries to tell you, you have permission to set your boundaries. You have a court-ordered permission to set a no contact boundary. That's excellent. Okay, now you got to do the work of standing up and saying, this is the agreement. The baby gets exchanged at daycare. And if not, you know, I don't know the way that this particular situation works with this agreement in your country. I would find out what to do. I would call whatever number, whatever court is in charge of that. I would call and I would find out what happens if the father of the baby, who was bound by this no contact agreement, does not drop the baby off at the daycare at the time he is ordered to do so. Therefore, if he does not do that, what do you get to do? Do you get to call the police? Do you get to file some other thing? Like, what happens? What are the steps that happen? I would absolutely find out what those rights are and make it extremely clear. And then the moment that he breaks that agreement, meaning he doesn't pick up or drop off the baby at the daycare, and he's trying to contact you and bully you into meeting with him to receive the baby, then you call that number, whatever that number is. Is it the police? Who is it? But you call that number. You don't negotiate with him. Okay, rule number 2, no negotiating with terrorists. Okay, this person is blackmailing you. This person is extorting you. This person is using your child as a pawn. Do not allow him to do that anymore. Okay, you got to stand up. You got to stand up and protect yourself and that baby, and don't let him do that. Now, he's coming in with all these threats. Okay, so you want to ignore those threats, because those threats are simply meant to stir you, to cause you to feel trouble, to cause you to feel a false sense of guilt for something that you didn't do wrong, to cause you to have a sense of dread and fear for the future, that he's going to do something that's going to ruin your relationship with your child or make you look a certain way. All he's trying to do right now is get into your head. Do not allow that shit to get into your head. Whatever he says, do not listen. Whatever he contacts you about, do not read it. Okay, the only agreement that you need to have with him is the picking up and receiving of the baby at the daycare. That's it. That's it. There's no other contact. Okay, so don't allow him to do that. Now, he can threaten you for full custody. You know, you said first he's threatening to get joint custody, right? And having your son from Sunday to Sunday. So, okay, if this schmuck wants to take you to court, you're going to show up in court. And first of all, instead of this, you know, court-appointed paralegal, I would check out what the free legal services are in your local area. So we have these here. They're like legal organizations. I worked for one when I was 19. It was like my first like little career kind of job. I worked as a paralegal there, and the people who are there are amazing. Like, okay, any lawyer, and this was like 1998, right? But any lawyer who signs up to work for like $30,000 a year, right? With all that law debt and everything, that person is going to that job because they care. They have passion and they have purpose and they want to help people. So just because it's free legal services doesn't mean it's not worth it. It could be that the person that was appointed to you through the court was just not really interested in working. I happened to visited my own court here a couple weeks ago and was just shocked at the treatment that I received from the people working there. I wouldn't count on them. They're making, you know, like a minimum wage or whatever they're making, you know, their government wage job, and they're not really interested in helping you necessarily. But if you go to these legal agencies, you know, find one, go in there for an interview. They're usually free. Sometimes they have a sliding scale depending on what your situation is. You could find very quality representation there. So that's one thing I would check into immediately, so that you can start to feel a sense of ease and know that you are supported. Know that there are professionals who can help you, and that if this thing, you know, goes from bad to worse, you're going to make that phone call, you're going to sign up that attorney at the legal services, and you're going to have representation by someone who cares about you and is interested in your well-being. So let this guy threaten threaten all he wants to threaten. Do not listen to him. Do not answer him. Do not let that crap fill your mind, because he will plant seeds of doubt and fear, and that will create weeds in your mind. Okay, and that's what he's trying to do. That's the whole point, because if he can get you to fear, you will crumble. You will let him walk all over you. You will let him abuse you. Right? So you don't want to allow that to happen. Don't allow that in. Know your rights, know what actions you're going to take, and know that you have people there supporting you. You know, this guy trying to threaten you to get full custody. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Like, I know this is really serious and it must be terrifying that you have this child, but honey, there's probably like 0 chance in hell that he's going to get full custody, especially the fact that this guy keeps breaking a no contact. Like, why did you even have that to begin with? Like, how did you get a protection from abuse? This guy is abusive. There's documentation that says he's abusive. Were there police reports that showing that this guy is abusive? There's no way any sane judge is going to give this person full custody of your child. No way. Okay, first of all, you're the woman, and for better or worse, that means that the courts are going to be on your side. Now, the flip side is, I know a lot of men who are fathers who are being taken advantage of by manipulative women who are using the bias of the courts, you know, against the man. This is not your case, okay? In your case, the man is the abuser. You are a really good mom and you are fighting for your child. So that's a different situation, and you know, the court is not going to take his side, especially with proof of abuse in the past. And then you see the fact that he's continuing to bully and abuse you, even though there's this no contact agreement. Okay, so don't let him fill your head with those doubts and those fears. That's how he's trying to manipulate you. Don't allow that to happen. You know, yes, what you said here, it's very true that, you know, narcs don't play fair, and in court, you know, they really want to win and everything. But the reality is, like, this guy has big strikes against him because he's already, you know, been considered abusive. The fact that you have this abuse, protection from abuse order. So he's not in a good position. You know, he could contact his friend, you can contact their friend, and they can find some hotshot lawyer. But you know, any kind of sane family court judge is going to look at that and say, no way. You know, probably the whole reason why he doesn't even have half custody is because of that abuse. You know, sometimes courts are reticent to not allow contact at all with one of the parents, you know, unless there's like extreme signs of physical abuse. They will often reconnect the children with the parents, which is a shame and a whole other mess of its own. But the reality is that you're in the position of power here. That's probably why he's working so hard to get into your mind, because he doesn't want you to know that you're in that position of power. So get a contact with a good legal agency over there so that you can start to feel at ease, so that you can start to feel you have allies and support. And also, in case you need to take that next step, talk to them about that no contact agreement you have, and you know, the daycare arrangement and how that needs to work. And maybe they can even tell you what number you need to call. Like, if he doesn't drop the child off when he's supposed to, or he doesn't pick the child up when he's supposed to, what number do you call instead of calling him? Because you don't want to be in that position where you're calling him. Then you're transferring the power to him, and you're not supposed to be having contact with him anyways because of that agreement. So, you know, and you said too about what happened in the past, okay, with this paralegal. She did a horrible job. You're afraid it's going to happen again, okay? What you got to do right now and for yourself is the self-care and managing the self-talk and putting that past away, okay? What happened in the past was the past, and that does not have to repeat itself. Okay, you want to move away from that. You want to focus on the life that you want to create, the life that you want to have with your child, the ease with which you're going to have some kind of exchange at daycare with the father of this child, and that he's going to respect these rules, and you're going to have your life, and you're going to have your freedom, and you're not going to have to deal with him as much. The reality is you're going to have to deal with this guy until your child is a minimum of 18, and you're probably still going to have to deal with him after that, because there's always going to be things that come up, you know, and then eventually your child has graduations and marriages or other celebrations, or even children of his own, right? So, you know, there's always going to be some kind of thing that's weaving you guys together. Unfortunately, that's something that your soul signed up for. And there are definitely some boundary lessons in here for you. So if I were you, I would focus on mastering the boundaries. That's really important for your well-being, for your sanity, for your health, and for your sense of empowerment. You've got to take a stand. You've got to set those boundaries and know that you have a right to do that. You know, and you said too, he doesn't even care about the baby. That is the very sad reality most of the time when you're dealing with narcissist parents. They don't care about the child unless that child is serving their needs. It's a form of emotional incest where they manipulate the child to get what they want from the child. It could even just be like, show me that you love me and adore me. You know, that parent is just sucking that energy out of that child in a very incestual way. It's not sexual incest, it is emotional incest. They're utilizing that child as an adult partner. Venus, please, that's loud snoring. Thank you. They're utilizing that child as an adult partner, and that's wrong to the child. That's creating a lot of emotional complications for that child. And, you know, then they'll use the child as a pawn of control over the other parent. And that's very sad when that happens because, you know, it's a struggle for the other parent. It's horrible. But the worst is that the children are going through this. And you might think, well, they're very young and they're not really understanding what's happening. But no, they're internalizing everything. In fact, they think it's all their fault. They feel like it's all their fault because everything is magical and connected and they're connected to everything. So if this is happening, it must be about them. Right? So you know that down the road, you want to be very aware of your child having these developmental issues with emotional needs, with insecurities and things like that. You want to get your child help, like professional help from a child psychologist if you start to see these signs, you know, and the earlier you intervene, the better, because, you know, the older that child grows, the longer those patterns get ingrained. And we need to look at ourselves, right? And recognize like, wow, you know, all of these patterns that had happened and what would have happened if someone had intervened and recognized that we needed help like a long time ago, right? We wouldn't be in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s figuring this out now, right? Meeting our own emotional needs now that should have been met as children and caused all of this turbulence in our life, you know, in relationships, in our relationship with ourselves, with other people, with Creator even. So, you know, that's a lot of information for you. I hope that's helpful, and really, really focus on your state, on your emotional state. You know, you want to always be feeling good. Keep checking in with yourself all day. How are you feeling right now? Scale of 1 to 10. If you're not feeling 5 and above, at least, why not? What's going on? Where does there need to be a boundary that there hasn't been a boundary? Or where is that boundary that you're not enforcing? Maybe you set it, but then you moved back on it and you didn't enforce that boundary. You know, you compromised that because someone was bullying you into doing something different, you know, and you panicked and got scared because of their reaction to the boundary. So, you know, if you're not feeling good, there's probably a boundary that needs to be looked at, that needs to be supported, because something didn't go well, right? There wasn't that protection in place. And focus on feeling good, doing things that make you feel joy, hanging out around people that make you feel joy, that make you feel love and connected, because the more of that vibe that you have in your life, the more that other bullshit is just going to move to the periphery, and it's not really going to have any weight in your mind and in your heart, because you're just so full of these positive vibrations that you see that come up and it's like, oh, no way. Like, I don't even have energy and time to invest in that. It's going to be a lot easier for you to deal with him. Sending you a big hug.